I've been a retirement advisor now for over 20 years. And I believe experience means a lot when you're helping people make decisions when it comes to their finances and about when to retire. And today I'm going to share with you a report from a firm that's got a heck of a lot more experience than I do. They're actually the world's largest money manager. They're a firm called BlackRock, and BlackRock manages over $10 trillion. To put that in perspective, the entire US economy is $26 trillion. China's economy is a little less than $20 trillion. So they're managing half of the money that all of China makes in an entire year. So when BlackRock releases a report, it's worth reading. And their latest report talks about the majority of retirees 20 years into retirement still have 80% of their retirement assets. So what many of us are worried about when we retire is that we're going to run out of money. And so we keep working, we keep building up our asset base. And you know, one of the things I want to encourage people to do, I think there's a lot of people that could retire early, but they just don't know. They lack the confidence that they can retire early. And this BlackRock study came out in December of 2023. And their findings is very much what I see with my clients and what I've seen over 20 years of experience is people keep waiting and postponing retirement. And you know what, for many of us, we don't have to do that. So again, what this study showed is that the majority of retirees still had 80% of their retirement assets after almost 2 decades of retirement. Think about that. You know, for many of these people, they could have retired a lot earlier, 5 years earlier, 10 years earlier. Think about what that would mean for you. So let's go for a walk and let's talk about the study. First, I want to give credit to the authors, Ann Ackerley, who's the head of BlackRock's retirement group. So she's a very senior person at BlackRock. And then Nick Nafous, who's also a very senior person at BlackRock. And Nick is also a chartered financial analyst, which is the top designation on the investment side. So I'm also a chartered financial analyst. I can tell you it's a really, really hard program to get through. I like studying, I like taking tests, I do well, but it's a tough program. So Nick is a smart guy, and Ann heads up for all of BlackRock, their retirement group. So this is a very credible report. And one of the things that they found is not just that the majority of people still had 80% of their retirement assets, but 1/3 of all retirees, and this goes across wealth groups. These aren't just, you know, people that have $100 million or $1 billion. This is across all wealth groups. 1/3 of all the people that they studied actually had more money, almost 2 decades into retirement. And again, not just people with $10 million, these are average everyday people, had more money almost 2 decades into retirement. So if you're putting off retirement, you think, I'm not sure I have enough money, and hopefully I've planted a seed that's like, you know what, maybe I could retire early. This BlackRock report really, really supports that. And I want you to think about it because, you know, unfortunately, a lot of folks, they work their whole life, finally retire, and then unfortunately a health situation happens and they can't, you know, I'm here in a beautiful American town. Let's see if anybody in the comments can figure out where I am. But they can't do adventures like this and, you know, go for a weekend, or many of you know I've traveled all over the world. I've been fortunate to be able to do that. And that's a younger person's game. It's hard to do that in your 80s. So if you think you want to do that, doing it earlier rather than later. And this BlackRock report really validates what I've seen is people wait too long to retire, and the money hurdle is a challenge. It's one of the challenges, but it's not the only challenge. And many of us are a lot closer to being financially independent than what we think. So, okay, that's one of the things. Another thing that the report shared, which I see as well, is that early retirees have more anxiety than later retirees, right? There's a transition that takes place in retirement, and there's a comfort that we have to get comfortable with actually spending our money. That's a hard transition. It's a hard transition to go from working to not working, and it's also a hard transition to go from saving to actually taking money out of your account. So early retirees are feeling that stress, or reports showed that as well. Okay, so why are people not spending their money? And this is kind of surprising to me. And this is what I do, right? I work with people guiding into retirement, but I'm working with people that have self-selected to work with a retirement advisor. So some of this, 43% of the people that they studied said that their financial goal was to keep spending a constant amount in retirement. Now, for my clients, I talk about kind of a barbell approach, where early in their retirement, they're going to spend more. Those are the go-go years. Then in the middle, they've gotten the big trips out of the way, they've done the big adventures. And so spending tends to go down. So more spending early on, then spending goes down. Then they go through their 70s and their 80s. And then at the end of life, we don't know what's going to happen, and spending can increase at the end. So I call that a barbell approach, because it's bigger at the two ends, at the beginning and at the end, than it is in the middle. But in the BlackRock report, they found almost half, 43%, were planning on spending the same amount every year. And I think if you do that, you're likely going to have a lower budget for how much that you spend. So I'd encourage you to work with a professional and come up with a budget that gives you the permission the first couple years of retirement, the first 5 years, maybe the first decade, of spending more money, and then thinking about, okay, we're going to throttle that back. So here's another thing. 25% of the people that BlackRock surveyed had no plan. They didn't have a financial plan. And guess what happens if you don't have a financial plan? You have X dollars in the bank, that's all you have for the rest of your life. You know what happens? You tend to not spend the money. You are sacrificing unnecessarily. And that's really a shame to be doing that when you've worked so hard for your money, and then to be frugal when, maybe you have to be frugal, but for a lot of us, we don't have to be frugal, and we could spend the money. And, oftentimes the people I work with are married, not always, but oftentimes, and there's one spouse that just has intuition that says, you know what, we're being frugal, and, we're not staying at the 4-star and the 5-star hotels, and we're not going out to eat as much, and it's just, my sense is we're being too frugal, and we don't need to be. And you know what? I tend to be an ally for that spouse, because the data that I have backs that up, that oftentimes people are being overly frugal, and they don't have to be. So I call it sacrificing unnecessarily. Now the other side of that is also true, that if you're overspending, that can cause a problem too. But I can tell you, for every person that's overspending, I have 3 or 4 clients that are underspending. It's just their human nature. Even if somebody says, okay, the budget is, we're going to spend $5,000 a month, or we're going to spend $7,000, whatever the is, $10,000 a month. Our whole lives we've been saving some money. And so, let's say somebody's living on $5,000 a month. It's not unusual for that couple to save $1,000 a month. And I have to remind them, you don't have to save anymore. The saving days are behind you. Another part of this study is only 25% of the people studied, when they first retired, were planning on spending down their retirement accounts. I think that's insane. Only 1 in 4 people were actually planning on having less money a decade, 2 decades into retirement than when they first retired. That's why we are saving money. This money has a purpose. I'm in the United States, and so money is a source of power, is a source of status. Money represents, I don't care where you live in the world, money represents many, many different things. Money is a tool for us. And we save it, we sacrifice it, we exchange our life energy, we exchange time for money, and now money needs to work for us. Only 25% planned on having less assets 2 decades later. If that's you, please reconsider that. I want you to really think about that. The money in your retirement account is there to support your life. and for you to have a good life, not just a life, but a good life. And I want you to be thinking about that. So the next one is, what percent of the people felt financially secure? And this one kind of broke my heart when I read it. So financially secure, almost 60% of women, but only, I should say only 60%. 57% of women felt financially secure, and 2/3 of men, 65%, felt financially secure. Those are low numbers. I wish those numbers were quite a bit higher. And I'd be interested to see what this is like in countries where people don't have to worry about health care insurance. I think part of what's driving this is just the cost of healthcare in the United States, and none of us know what end of life is going to look like for us, and end of life can be expensive. And so I think a lot of people are not spending money and want to reserve money because they're worried that at the end of life they're gonna need a lot of money because healthcare costs are expensive. And there's some reason to be concerned about that. Many people watching this video are thinking, well, Azul, people have Medicare. What's the problem? Well, the problem is Medicare doesn't cover a lot of things. Fidelity came up with a study that said the average person reaching 65 years of age is going to have $150,000 of medical expenses for the rest of their life after 65. And these are expenses that Medicare doesn't cover 100%, or they don't cover at all. And that $150,000 a person seems like a big number. It does to me, right? Hopefully it seems like a big number to you. So for a married couple, that's $300,000 of expenses that Medicare, of healthcare expenses that Medicare is not going to cover. But guess what? That does not include the cost of long-term care. And if you make it to 65, we have an 80% likelihood of needing long-term care at some point. So $150,000 plus the cost of long-term care. So it can get really expensive. And I think that's part of what's driving this sense of insecurity, financial insecurity. Again, almost 60% of women feel financially secure. It's 57%, and 2/3 of men. I'd like to see those numbers be 90%, 95%, 100% would be a good goal for us all to have. So what do you do? What if you're in this situation? What if you're not planning on spending your retirement account, and it's really an account in case unexpected things happen, right? Which is essentially what this report is saying is, people save all this money for retirement, but then they're not spending it. They're saving it as their, oh no account. So how do I encourage you to actually spend the money and enjoy the money and enjoy the youth of your senior years? Enjoy beautiful days like today, and go out to eat and stay at nice hotels and just enjoy the journey. So what do? I think the best thing I can suggest is, and admittedly I'm biased, but I think you should work with a fee-only financial advisor. Fee-only meaning their only compensation comes directly from their clients. And the reason I think that's important is there's a lot of smart financial advisors out there. I want to make sure that your financial advisor is bringing their smarts to benefit you, not to benefit them. And in my industry, there's hundreds of ways to make money. Most clients never see it, and I want you to know that your advisor's only source of compensation it comes from you. You're going to pay this person like you would an attorney, like you would an accountant. Here in the U.S. it's complicated, but as you would a physician. So you pay for their smarts, and the smarts benefit you. So this report really highlights the importance of working with somebody that has the experience. I said at the beginning of this video, I've been doing this for 20 years. You know what? I'm a heck of a lot better financial advisor, retirement advisor now than in my first couple years. So I think it takes a decade to get really, really good and to have the experience set of working with hundreds of families, to be able to help people not just look at the quantitative numbers, but the qualitative aspects, you know, the emotional aspects to help you through something like this. So super powerful report from BlackRock. I'll leave in the show notes a link to the report, and I think it's really worthwhile for many of us to read it. I also think it's worthwhile, up here I have a video about enjoying the journey until retirement. So these are 7 things that I want you to stop doing in your 50s and your 60s in order to enjoy the journey more. So thanks for watching today's video, and I'll see you in this one soon. Bye-bye.